Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mazi Ezoke, and I am greeting you, everyone, this evening. If you can hear me loud and clear, this evening I want to address something very, very serious and very, very important. We do not only communicate to inform; we must also communicate to interrogate and also to set record straight. Over the weekend, Pastor Tunde Bakare, I think formerly known as pastor of the Latter Rain Assembly, or uh, don't know the name of the church. He came out and made some statements that didn't sit well with me, and one of these things, um, many of you who've been following me, is I want to look at issues dispassionately. And hence, sometimes, and most times, I do disagree with my audience, but again, that's what it is. This is not a beauty contest, it's not a contest to agree with every one of you who is online. But in this occasion, the pastor made some comments that, on the surface, if you look at it, it appears unharmful. But if you think, bearing in mind where we are today and what could have led him to make such comment, you begin to look at that comment from a different angle. I thought about it, let it go, let me not respond. But on a second thought, I said, no. The reason why shit smells is the inability to cover it. Because when you allow it, it will keep smelling. Maybe such men do things they do because many times many of us feel so unconcerned not to respond to such narratives. When these narratives are not responded to, they will hurt the future generations. What I'm going to do this evening, Mazes, okay, speaking to us, will be the following. I am going to look at this issue dispassionately, look at various opinions or what people have written in history, which will be a direct response to Pastor Tunde Bakare, where he said that Igbos killed the former or the late Prime Minister of Nigeria, a Prime Minister and the man whom I have in this platform said so many times, from anyone who has governed Nigerian up to this date, he remains the best amongst all of them. A man who is able to communicate in clear terms, a man who is able to communicate with the simplistic of language, a man who, in my view, he has great intellect. Sadly, due to the overzealousness of the young military officers in 1966, which is now known the famous 1966 coup, he was killed. In my view, that coup was unnecessary. That coup is one of the reasons why, in the words of Yemi Osibanjo, professor and SAN, the reason where we are, the reason, in my own view, why we are where we are today. Having said that, I would want us to listen and listen attentively. I'm going to take us through a journey. We will review various articles that have written, various articles that have talked about his death. But there is one article who is almost an eyewitness, someone who saw the corpse. That individual, thank God at that point, stuck to the into the professional ethics of his profession and wrote the story without knowing that 50 years down the line, 50 years down the line, that anyone would ever want to come and twist the story. On that note, I say go grab you something if you want to, and find your seat, recharge your telephone if you will be joining me this evening. And if you haven't subscribed to Njenje Media TV, the place you have your information authentic, unpolished. If you haven't, please by all means do. Like this stream and also share. I would encourage you to like and I would encourage you to share. Now let's start. Last Sunday, now you ask yourself, last Sunday, what would have led to Pastor Dr. Tunde Bakare to have made the following statement? Let us listen to Tunde Bakare.
Balewa. They remove his turban, they pour wine on his head, forced him to drink, and shot him. And while he was being killed, he said, "None of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria."
None of your tribe would ever rule Nigeria, not govern. Underline that word. None of your tribe would ever rule Nigeria, not govern. Before they shot him, they fed him alcohol. Like again, I want to honestly pour out my heart. The 1966 coup, it must be on record, was unnecessary. I believe it's one of the things, that set us so back that we are where we are today. If that coup never happened, maybe over time, Nigeria would have learned the lesson of democracy. Nigeria would have grown to a point where some of these issues could better be managed as opposed to what we have today. And that's why sometimes when I see my younger brothers think that if you kill this person, everything becomes all right and we prosper, the Eldorado comes. And I say to us, life is not that way. But before I continue, I want to pay attention again to the words spoken because these will form the basis of the analysis this evening. I'll repeat that again.
Balewa. They remove his turban, they pour wine on his head, forced him to drink, and shot him. And while he was being killed, he said, "None of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria."
Who was in that room? Who told Pastor Tunde Bakare this? Is this a concocted lie that he is repeating? Someone here just is reminding us. Recall that just last year, Doyin Okukwe made similar statement. Doyin, and we took him on Twitter. Eventually, he came back to recant. Bakare is feeling this same heat. A friend of mine, I wouldn't mention his name, sent me a message Bakare sent to him this morning, saying that he's going to address it next Sunday, that he was misquoted. Now, Pastor Tunde Bakare, before you accuse me of misquoting you, I am taking your words one by one. Again, you said that they killed him, they shot him, and he said that none of your tribe would ever rule Nigeria, not govern Nigeria. Let's hear that again.
It's not a new thing I'm saying. None of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria. None of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria. Killed, he said, "None of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria."
I hope many of you watching me understand how deep this is. This, in my view, before I start analyzing this, I must say this. This is very, very, very deep. This statement is capable of, regurgitating old wounds, somewhat making some people salty. Because election is coming, rather than to build, men who ought to be men of God are here stoking fire. At this point, from nowhere, Pastor Tunde Bakare is going back to 1956, narrating something he's not aware of, something he doesn't know when, probably if he was born then, maybe a baby. He didn't know what happened. But here he is saying that he told them, let's take for argument's sake, he was shot. So he told them that none of your men will govern Nigeria or rule Nigeria. Is it after they shot him?
It's not a new thing I'm saying. And I said I want to break the curse today because these Igbos were not part of those people.
You see, he has stoked the fire. This is a case of someone who comes to your house, ignites the fire, runs out to his car, gets the fire extinguisher. Suddenly he wants to play the Jesus of Nigeria. These Igbos, now he wants to come back and tell you, I am going to break the curse today. We don't need you to break any curse. We don't need your help. We have, when it comes to men of, some call you see, sometimes you don't even blame people who call you guys the men of DOG. Sometimes you don't even blame people who call you guys the men of fraud. Because, the one thing that angers me is I want you that is watching me now know how calculative this is. This is insanity, to say the least. That a man of his intellect, unless, as you know, recall that EFCC published his name as those that owe some banks. Some are now saying maybe someone, who I'm talking about, probably could have made some promise of maybe offsetting some of those debts. He's now gone to town. We are wiser. The comment you made can only be understood by those who have their number 6 intact and those who can think. And where I've took time since Sunday night, I've thought about it, and I said, no, this must be responded to, because Abasin Sinkiti or Nesi, Abachin Sinkiti or Nesi, and this nonsense must be addressed.
Because these Igbos were not part of those people. You cannot overgeneralize.
Yeah,
I went into the Bible, I showed them Genesis 49. Reuben, you are my firstborn. You will not excel. You went to my couch. You defiled my couch. You're unstable as water. But God raised Moses.
Well, I don't want to play more. Let me not get angry now. Reuben, you defiled my couch. You're the firstborn. You're bringing the biblical connotation to it. Therefore, you're going to break the curse. Okay, then let's get Anthony Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for the super chat. Let me take your comment. Anthony said, I'm a Bibio. The only solution is the independence of sovereign state of Biafra. We can pretend all we like. Thank you very much for your super chat. Now, let me tell you guys one thing. I want us to pay attention to this. I want to take a couple of articles. Let me, his diatribe is already said. I want to first of all go to the South African history page called sahistory.org.zz. So let's go there and let's look at what the documentations. I wasn't born in 1966 when the coup happened. Therefore, I can only look at primary and secondary data in terms of data analysis here. If you can see my screen, I want you to quickly come with me. Let's embark on this journey. Let me see if I can make this bigger so that if by any chance you wish to read with me, you can by any means do that. So let me quickly bring this. And I said, like I said, this is a historical paper published 15 January 1966. And it says here, Prime Minister Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa is killed in Nigerian first military coup. Again, I wasn't born when this man was killed, but haven't watched his video, especially the visit in the United States of America. Haven't watched him speak. You would somewhat say to yourself, man, this is the type of person that we are missing in this country. Let's take this. He says, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the first prime minister of Nigeria after he gained independence. He served his time as prime minister from 1957 until he died in 1966, when he was kidnapped and killed in the country's first military coup. Now, pay attention here, keywords. When he was kidnapped and killed. Balewa term was tumultuous due to tensions in the western region of Nigeria. Obviously, when we had the Operation Wete, Nigeria was comprised of 3 regions, each with a considerable amount of self-governance. This caused tension as the leaders of the respective regions were set on completely separating their region from the influence of the federal government and other regional leaders. When one of the leaders in the western region, Obafemi Awolowo, was charged with treason by Balewa's government, it led to many Balewa supporters turning against him. Violence broke out in the region. Now, this is the history of how that we got to that point. Again, credit to him. He was one of those that really formed the Organization of African Unity. Now, that is on the South African front. Here, let us then go back to the second one, which is Britannica. Let's go to Britannica. That is the British one. Let's go to Britannica. I'm going to bring in Britannica here. So we look at Britannica and see what we have here. Okay, so Britannica. From 1952 until his death, Balewa served in the federal government. He was prime minister. He was the Minister of Works and Transport in the middle 1950s, and then as leader of the MPC in the House of Representatives, he was made the Prime Minister of Nigeria in 1957. After the pre-independence election of 1959, he again became the Prime Minister in a coalition government of the MPC and Nnamdi Azikiwe NCNC, that is the Nigerian Council of, the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons. And he was continued to hold, he continued to hold this position after Nigeria was officially granted independence in 1960. As Prime Minister of Nigeria, he had his power circumscribed by the federal structure of the government. Now, he was eventually killed. Why I want us to look at various accounts is for us to get to the point where we would get to see where this sort of misinformation started emanating. If you recall, around 2009 or 2010, the former Minister of Aviation, Fani Kayode, wrote an article where he said almost the same thing Pastor Tunde Bakare said. Okay? I'm not insinuating anything, but you can see that there appears to be some form of consistency in the angle from where this is coming from. If we, we may have to also look at even Balewa's son. In one of the interviews he had with Punch, the things he also said about the death of his father. I do not know if the son is unaware of how his dad died, then people who were probably wearing pampers at the point where the person in question was killed, how they will be the one to be telling you how an individual was killed. But let's see where this is coming from. And that will now get me to this article here published by FKK, that means Who Killed Sir Tafawa Balewa. Let me take some excerpts here, and that will be very, very interesting. So, and it reads, once more, I make it bolder, and I say, please do come with me. Femi Fani Kayode was responding to Chief Matthew Mbo in one of the articles he wrote, making some clarification as regarding the death of Balewa. But again, in his usual vivacious manner, he started as follows. He said obviously he calls everybody my friend, and he calls almost every elder my father. So that's a trademark. Again, he starts this essay by saying, before reading my essay, may I crave your indulgence and ask you to read through Chief Matthew Mbo's comments, which are provided on the link in the nation's newspaper. This is why it is so important for us to, again, blah, 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 then it's irrelevant. But here, I believe he begins to say some things that I would be addressing this evening that are very important. Because Mbo made allusion that Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa died of asthma attack, then he started saying that that's not true. And in reference, he said, Chief Matthew Mbo is a man that I have tremendous respect and affection for. And he is undoubtedly one of our most eminent elder statesmen, and a nationalist. He is also a father to me, so I do find it difficult to say what I'm about to say, yet the truth must be told no matter what and whose ox is caught. And the truth is that elder statesman assertion that Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the former Prime Minister of Nigeria, was not murdered by soldiers, and that he in fact died of asthma, is a sordid and shameful attempt to distort history. I want us to, the first one says he was killed. Here, he clearly says, according to Mbo, says he died of asthma, right? Now, FKK went ahead to obviously write in his usual manner. It is also interesting to take this part so that we also maybe have a glimpse before we jump into, because I don't want to make this too long. I want, before we jump into a first person's account. And here he says, it is nothing but historical revisions. It is simple, not true, to say that Ifa Ajuna did not kill Tafawa Balewa and that the man just died of asthma attack after being abducted. The man was shot and his body was left to decompose. It is not true to say that there was no autopsy report. There was. After the body was found, it was taken to Lut, and an autopsy was conducted by the head of the pathology department in that hospital. The findings were that he had been shot to death. Dr. Moses Major Kodomi, who was the Minister of Health at that time, can confirm this. After murdering Balewa in cold blood on the Abeokuta road, Ifa Ajuna fled to Enugu because that because that time it was clear that the coup had failed. Then he got to Enugu to meet Christopher Kibo, who he was very friendly with, and Okigbo smuggled him out of the country from where he fled to Ghana. He later came back to Biafra, and both he and Okigbo fought on the Biafran side. I mean, second part, historical fact. Now, let us go to the part that I want to, and I believe that this second part is where my argument for this evening will rest on. Because why? Femi has no facts. Pastor Tunde Bakare has no facts. I would rather, you know, that sometimes I tell people, if I speak to Paaya Debanja, for instance, and he tells me, this is what Awolowo told me, this is what Zik told me, and I speak to Pa Tanko Yakasai, he says, Mazi, this is what Balewa told me. This is what Amadu Bello told me. This is what this person told me. Who am I to believe the person that is giving me a first person account, or down the line, when the information is watered down, a person that gives me an information that I could not consider a first person account? Okay? So again, bear in mind, Pastor Tunde Bakare is from the Southwest. Femi Fani Kayode is from the Southwest. The good thing, however, the person that is going to clear the air is also, your guess is as good as mine, from the Southwest. So it's not a question of, Southwest is against Southeast and they are trying to change the narrative. No, someone, a professional, a young journalist. I don't know many of you if you ever know about this history. Let's now get down to the business. And the business of this evening is to tell Pastor Tunde Bakare to move away from the trajectory that he is in. Because you want to contest for 2023 does not mean you will begin to speak things that are unfounded. I do not want to engage in any form of name calling, but I want to respectfully, sir, debunk the narrative that I can, if I wish, say that has some ethnic connotation and deep-seated, no, I may not want to use the word hatred, but has some deep-seated dislike because there was nothing to do with the occasion of what you were saying at that point. You weren't preaching about Nigeria. You weren't talking about the late Sadwana. You weren't talking about a late Balewa. This is not his memorial service. So there was no coloration, there was no link, there was no connection. It was a pure hatchet job, sir. Respectfully, and I must insist, respectfully, that's what it is. Now, let me quickly bring to us the next part of this. And that part is the man who, as if he knew that this day would come, he penned it down. He put it down. Sometimes our problems are that we do not research enough. We don't spend time to go and research and find out what exactly happened in the past. And here we have this, and I will take this as follows. If you can see my screen, if you may read with me, I want to know, I want us to read this together. Thanks goodness, Wale Akinola wrote this. September 26, 2010, in response to what Femi Fani-Kayode wrote, which I shared with us before. And I read, Balewa's death controversy. As an eyewitness, the body I saw was fresh. Osoba. Who is Osoba? You remember him? Who is Osoba? A former governor. So it's not someone that we say we don't know. But before he became a governor, at some point he was a journalist, a renowned journalist at that for that matter. But again, let us come back and review this and see. This is what led to it. It was an article written by Chief MT Mbo, like I said before, that sparked the response from Femi Fani-Kayode. Eventually, Wale Akinola waded in. A former External Affairs Minister, Chief MT Mbo, sparked off a controversy recently when he claimed that the Nigerian Prime Minister in the First Republic, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, died of asthma. The claim was disputed by those who held on the view that Balewa had been shot dead by coup plotters who had abducted him. Amongst the political leaders of this country, on January 15, 1966, Chief Fani-Kayode, a former Minister of Aviation, obviously, I have shown us what Fani-Kayode wrote. But let us look at someone, because facts, they say, are sacred. When you deal with these things, you detach emotion, you look at facts. And here it goes. Now, Chief Osoba, Olusegun Osoba, who was the former governor of Ogun State, again, Yorubas. Please bear in mind, who wrote the first one? Southwest. Who is debunking it? Southwest. Who saw the dead body as a reporter, saw it? Southwest. And wrote the report when he wrote the report in 1960. He didn't know that today some sort of this conversation will be happening. He wrote it based on what he saw. He didn't know who killed the prime minister, but he saw the dead bodies, the dead body of the prime minister and the finance minister, that's Okotiebo, and he reported it. And the story goes as so. Chief Olusegun Osoba, a former governor of Ogun State, came into the picture courtesy of a report he did as a young reporter and published in the Daily Times of January 23rd, 1966, after providentially seeing the corpse of the late Nigerian leader where it had been dumped alongside that of Chief Okotiebo, as I said before. The then finance minister, Okotiebo, was. Osoba speaks in this interview on his experience, 21st January 1966, when he saw the corpse and other issues surrounding this death. Please, if somebody is shot and you are a reporter who had gone there, you looked at him. In his report, he said, Okotiebo, his body was cut. His body had some wounds, but the prime minister's body, nothing. Was there any reason to lie? And this was happening, rather this interview took place in 2010. That's freaking 12 years ago. And again, that time they were even saying 44 years after, a fresh controversy is brewing over the death of Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, without knowing that a more serious crisis and controversy would even brew at 44 to 12. Nobody knew that 56 years later, that same conversation will still be happening. And here we go. I don't want to, read all the, preambles which talked about that the British didn't know, didn't see the coup coming, and Commonwealth was meeting in Nigeria, blah blah blah. Those ones. No, but let me start up here, or rather, let's actually go the whole way and read it out. Now, the first question that he was asked is that the British intelligence that was in charge of Nigerian security then fell flat at the critical time and had no clue whatsoever on the situation in Nigeria. Their intelligence situation was totally flawed. How? Now, he answered, I could not imagine when, as a young reporter, that a well-grounded and well-informed security network allowed world leaders to assemble in Nigeria. Now, the reporter who eventually, many years later, became a governor is saying, this is not hearsay. So it's good to hear from first person, not someone who conjures something under his bed and is spewing it out in the public. And he went on to say, a few hours to a major political upheaval and military intervention, the first in the history of the country, would be in the offing, and they didn't know. Basically saying that the British, the intelligence failed. So the failure didn't start today. Nigerian military intelligence is failing per hour, per minute, the same way the British intelligence failed in Nigeria. That means one cannot rely on such source for information on what actually happened. Because if they failed in knowing that there was a coup in the offing, so how would you then trust them for whatever that eventually be written in the public? He says no, because then the Prime Minister of Britain himself, Harold Smith, was still in his country 24 hours to the coup. I was at the airport at about 11 p.m. on Friday, 14th of January 1966, when Tafawa Balewa saw of Harold Wilson on his journey back to the United Kingdom. That was just 24 hours to the end of the coup. That was just 24 hours to the time the coup took place. Would any serious government have risked the head of state, the head of their government in a country where the military was about to strike? Supposing he was trapped in that crossfire just like that, then the head of state of Cyprus was caught in the coup that happened. Obviously, one of the reasons why the Enugu failed and why Ifajuna, according to history, could not take away MI Obara in Enugu. Now, again, he says, direct question. Your report of January 23rd, recall, January 23rd, has become a reference point on the death of Balewa. As someone who saw the body of the late Prime Minister and reported it, what do you say? It is time very important. Please pay attention because I like this part. Sam Omotose, in his column, made a profound statement that there was a failure of intellectualism. Nobody amongst the writers of those making claims about Balewa made an adequate research. The newspapers of that time are all in the archives, and they are important sources of information or records of what happened. All those who are talking are basing their information on hearsay. I didn't write this. I'm not saying Femi Kayode and Tunde Bakare are basing their information on hearsay on third party from one person to another. The New Nigerian, which was a major newspaper then, was just founded at that time. The Daily Times, the leading newspaper in Nigeria then, was there and the pilot. This newspaper was all owned by government. Nobody has bothered to go and search for them and read the report of these papers. Instead, some of them are quoting British archive when already I said the British intelligence on that coup in Nigeria at that time was a total failure. So you cannot rely on such or use a failed report of failed people and intelligence history. That is my argument. Basically, what he's saying here is that if the British, because these reporters were the ones that actually saw the prime minister where he was dumped. So even before the British, even before the government could come, the reporters had already seen him in the state that he was. So where is the argument coming from? He goes on to say that means some of the things said, for instance, by Chief Fani Kayode, who is raising issues on the circumstances surrounding Balewa's death, cannot be relied upon in 2010. So if they are making this argument that some of these things Fani Kayode said that time, he's a rabble rouser, the same way he said he slept with Ojuku's wife, in response to when Ojus Okalu made an argument which I think is insulting to the Yorubas when he said Lagos is a no man's land. I said, well, you cannot call somebody's homeland a no man's land. And that's what objectivity does. You watching me may not like it, but when someone comes to your house and say your house is a no man's land, it's an insult. I do not subscribe to that. Lagos belongs to Yorubas. So when Fani Kayode was responding to Ojus Okalu, in that comment, which I think should best be described as a slip of tongue. If he ever meant it, then that's a tragedy. Because no one can go to Ibere or Abia State and say, because we have, or Amausa, where in a very metropolitan city where so many people are, suddenly Abia State no longer belongs to Abia people or whatever. I mean, that's, please. So again, what Fani Kayode is doing is exactly, or rather did at that point, is exactly what Pastor Tunde Bakare is doing. Now, the same person who saw Prime Minister is saying, I will not say Tafawa Balewa died of asthma for the fact that I am not a medical doctor, which is fair. It's just like when somebody dies now and I see that person. If Mazi touches an individual that is dead, I can tell you, wow, this body is still warm. It doesn't feel like the individual is dead. It will be unfair for Mazi to tell you, he died of heart attack, he died of brain tumor, he died of brain hemorrhage. I do not know. But if I see a dead body that is stripped of his clothing, and I look at that dead body in almost a sitting position, I will be able as an adult to say, well, I saw no wound. If he was strangled, I don't know. If they gave him poison, I don't know. But to say that he was poured wine and shot, they shot somebody, you can't see a bullet, but the person is dead. You can't see any bullet penetration. Is it possible that bullet will penetrate you and the blood won't come out? Come on. Tunde Bakare. All this nonsense because of 2023. Come on. We can do better than this. Well, in his own argument again, like I said, he has basically said that he doesn't know how he died. But one thing is very clear. As an eyewitness, the body of Balewa that I saw was fresh. Please underline this. Underline this, please. I will not say, let me take that again. I will not say that Tafawa Balewa died of asthma, but the fact that I am not a medical doctor, but as an eyewitness who saw the body of the late Prime Minister, the man fondly referred to as Golden Voice, and he said that I saw a fresh body. A fresh body that had no cut, had no mutations, nothing. But Fani Kayode, I can understand his emotions. He continues. Now, I mean, he's the one telling Fani Koyede, not me, that he can understand his emotion, but I think he's getting too emotional and indirectly politicizing history. Again, people, this was in 2010. And in 2022, another person who told us in 2018 that God said that he will be the Nigerian next president. God told him that he will be the next president of Nigeria in 2019. Suddenly, when Buhari declared, he now changed it that it is after Buhari. So after Buhari now, when these men tell you that they have calls, it is time to start asking them whether this call, if it's a missed call, or what type of call. Is it a WhatsApp call or a telephone call? So we begin to know what type of call these men do have. Again, it continues that the first cliche they teach in journalism is facts are sacred. The first thing my editor told me about the story, again, now going back, this was a former governor, because sometimes it is good to be factual and and professional in some of these things you do, because you never know. This video that I'm doing today, I am basing this video on facts. In 50 years' time, maybe when I'll be sitting looking at great-great-grandchildren, or maybe when I'll be sitting as when eventually we make everything kaput and fix it, and I am now the new prime minister, and somebody will come and say, Mazi, but as the new prime minister, and this is what you said then I can tell you, well, I said it based on facts, not on emotions. And here it is. The first thing my editor told me, I will take once more, pardon me, about the story as I got to the office that day was that don't embellish your report. Don't embellish your report. Don't be flamboyant. Just be factual. And the facts I stated in my story have never, ever been denied, debunked, controverted. In 44 years, then I add another 12 years. These facts have never been debunked, denied, controverted in the last 56 years. The question then, Tunde Bakare, why now? Why now had many mistakes and flaws in your argument? As if this was written for you. And where are the flaws? And what are the flaws? Again, this will address the same allusion made by Femi Fani Kayode. First, he said, first of all, he claimed, let me highlight this part as well. First of all, he claimed an autopsy was held on the body of Balewa in Lut before it was taken away. That cannot be true, see? Because the late Professor Odunjo, the brother of Soji Odunjo, was in Lut then when I wrote the story. And I remember that Soji and I saw him that same Sunday that my report was published. And we talked extensively on that matter. So if there had been any autopsy, he would have told me in the course of our discussion. That was the first error on the part of Fani Kayode. And this is the same error in the part of Pastor Tunde Bakare. So if man says, okay, he's a medical doctor, and I see a journalist who wrote a report saying, that prime minister that died, there were so many stabs everywhere, That's what is written. And I'm a medical doctor. I saw the corpse of the prime minister. I did an autopsy on him. And he comes out and he says, oh, we are talking about it for a very long time. And I'm talking about how this one cut was deep. Shouldn't I be thinking, it's either they have given me the wrong corpse as a prime minister, or are you talking about the same prime minister that I saw the autopsy? or I saw the autopsy report. Is that making sense, people? In the second article, he now changed, saying the autopsy was done on the spot where the body was. These people. Anyway, the part that I want us to note is this. If Chief Osoba, a former governor, as of that time, a journalist, is here telling us there was no mutation, there was nothing in the body of this prime minister. People, how come someone, because you think he's a firebrand without fire extinguisher pastor, and you can be very vivacious and you can talk, and you are there inciting, let me say it, you are inciting the North against Ndigbo. And let me do the political calculation for you. We are not idiots. Balewa is from where? Bauchi. Bauchi is where? You know, many of us don't know. It is always easy when people say, the North, Fulani, this, that, I laugh. Balewa, let me get my distance again. Balewa, sadly, he died. I can't, say that enough. 1966 school was not necessary, was not needed. It was just a mere, one of those things that you can say to yourself, I wish it never happened. I'm being honest and I'm being fair. I wished 1966 school never happened. Balewa is not Fulani. I think Balewa was, is it Anga? Is it Anga or whatever? Yeah, Anga or Ampa, I can't remember again. But it's not Fulani, but it's from Northeast. So the whole point now is that someone is sitting down, or rather standing in the church, because suddenly you see that a people is making waves into reclaiming that which, by a mere sense of fairness, ought to be theirs at a particular material point in time. And the man who should stand in the pulpit and speak truth is here inciting that from nowhere. So what do you want them to do? That Igbos killed them. And not only that, you just shouted, oh, yes, you have prayed. So the ones, people like me, have, since we've been condemning and praying, say, may the soul of the late Balewa rest in peace, is not enough. So because maybe what's I call it? Now wood with the worship, pastor. So disappointing. For those of you joining me now, please, please kindly subscribe to this platform. Click on the bell icon if you may, if you wish, and also share this stream. I bring back Tunde Bakare again so that we hear his babacious nonsense. Sorry, I have to use that. That's what it is. Based on the facts and based on the trajectory of information that I have taken us through, I do not know, and I do not think if you still need any fact for me to convince you that what Tunde Bakare has said in the pulpit in his church is nothing but arrant nonsense. This is an orchestrated attempt to ensure that there is a friction between the North and the Southeast. Pastor Tunde Bakare, I will tell you that that attempt is dead on arrival. That attempt has failed because maybe before things will happen, because maybe some of us are not alive to our responsibilities. But today we say no, not again. We cannot allow such nonsense to keep happening with unchallenged. I'm not challenging you by just stating things just because out of my imagination. No. I've gone and I've taken you through literatures and through publications debunking and actually putting to rest whatever you have conjured in your mind as being nothing but nonsense. On that note, people, I will listen to this man once more. But one other thing that really gets me upset is this nonsensical notion that whenever we talk about 1966, these men like this will keep pushing the Igbo coup. Who told you that it is Igbo coup? Those were Nigerian coup. Those were, this is a Nigerian coup. This is something done by Nigerians. Nigerian young officers, Igbo, Midwest, North, and the Southwest, all did it together. So how come? If that be the case, it will tell you how mischievous we are. Have you ever had anyone say, General T.Y. Danjuma that killed the next head of state in the person of Agui Ironsi? Have you ever had anyone say, oh, that the second coup, bear in mind, Gowon is from Middle Belt, Danjuma from Middle Belt. Have you ever had anyone saying July coup 1966 was Middle Belt coup? In that coup, predominantly Northerners. Have you ever even had anyone call it Northern coup or Northern counter coup? No. Because these were Nigerian soldiers. They were not in the army representing Middle Belt. They were not in the army representing a particular region. Nzogu, born, his middle name Kaduna, born in Kaduna, grew up in Kaduna. If you are watching me now and you have your children in America, in this and they, they grew up there, suddenly something happened. Rather than now identify, oh, this child was conceived in Florida, gave birth in Florida. Suddenly he does something evil. Oh, no. This child is Obomosho baby. No, now. And everybody forgets that even Nzogu at that point was Midwest. You see, listen, sometimes Nigeria, this misinformation didn't start today, and I'm like, how could that have been concocted for so long? Is it because people probably kept quiet, unchallenged? No more. No more I say unto us. Let me begin quote my own Bible. No more I say unto us. Because this is not acceptable. If Tunde Bakare could go on and say the word they, They, whenever he says that, it feels like somebody is piercing a sharp object across my heart. Listen to him again.
Balewa. They remove his turban.
See, they remove his turban, they did this, a collective actions of 3 people that you can trace the ancestry to Igbo suddenly became a people of over 20 million as of that time. But nobody talks about when you ask Nzogu, the video is still on YouTube. Himself, he said, we did this because we wanted to hand over to Abafemi Awolowo, who was jailed by the same Tafawa Balewa's government. But what?
Tafawa Balewa, they remove his turban, they pour wine on his head, forced him to drink, and shot him. And while he was being killed, he said, none of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria. It's not a new thing I'm saying.
Don't worry, none of your tribe would ever rule Nigeria. We don't want to rule Nigeria. If Ndigbo would ever. We want to govern Nigeria, not to rule. If Ndigbo would ever, they would want to govern Nigeria. If you think it's not, they don't equal to governing Nigeria, then you can stick it in your orifice. Who cares? Stick it in your orifice, for Christ's sake.
And while he was being killed, he said, none of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria. It's not a new thing I'm saying. And I said I want to break the curse today because these Igbos.
See, I'm curse breaker. When you have finished inciting the people, you are breaking the curse. Doctor, you're not the only person with doctor. We are not stupid. Thank God you have bad head. I have bad heads. You see? So no be water day my own. Right?
Remove his turban. They pour wine on his head, forced him to drink, and shot him. And while he was being killed, he said, none of your tribe will ever rule Nigeria. It's not a new thing I'm saying. And I said I want to break the curse today because these Igbos were not part of those people. You cannot overgeneralize. And I went into the Bible. I showed them Genesis 49. Reuben! You are my firstborn. You will not excel. You went to my couch. You defiled my couch. You're unstable as water. But God raised Moses. Said, let Reuben live and not die. And let his men not be few. I said, on the authority of God's word, I reverse the curse of Tafa Balewa over the Igbo generation. You will have access to the throne like any other person. Do you understand this? If you don't rise above tribal and religious, gosh, God help me. If you don't rise above it, you can't fix a nation. You can't repair the breach. You can't restore the past to dwell in. But that's Isaiah 59. When he found no man, he said he put the breastplate of righteousness. He wore everything to fight this battle. And he stood. He said, when the enemy shall rush in like a flood, since I fought this battle of righteousness, the Spirit of God will raise a standard against him. And then enter into covenant with us. Are you ready for this? I'm closing. Sorry, I'm passing 8 o'clock. But I want to give it to you. He said, if you truly believe that I'm light and you are light, if you truly believe that righteousness, the righteous God is God of light, there is no darkness in him. If you truly believe that the spoken word that he has spoken brings life.
Now, this is a nation afflicted with so many, uncountable. If you look at Kaduna, for instance, where you have so many military formations, academy, this, that, armory, yet on a daily basis, you wake up, you hear, even today, early today, 11 soldiers killed. Oh, they go in there, they drive, and you ask yourself, what are they made of? Rather than Tunde Bakare to speak and use his mouth, I don't know if he's afraid whether this time around, if he speaks, Wema Bank and those that are behind the scene will come and knock on his door to pay back the money he borrowed. I don't know. We saw over the weekend on Friday, the Imam in Abuja who spoke truth to power, saying, what does he take? Listen, we couldn't live in this world forever. At some point, you and I will die, whether you like it. Listen, any one of you watching me now, in the next 70 years, any of you watching me now, we are all manure. So what is it that you just, because of what, you can't say the truth? Even to this point that if you can look at, you watch El-Rufai himself, he's telling you, I know these people, we know where they are. Now, what stops Tunde Bakare from asking, if you know these people, as you said in this video, why don't you take them out?
The camps, we know where the camps are. We have the maps, we know everything. We have their phone numbers, we listen to their conversations sometimes. So, but
see, they know their camps. They know where they are. They listen to their conversations. And Pastor Tunde Bakare, someone said I should stop calling him pastor. Well, whatever, he wants to be called, I don't necessarily bother me. But what I'm saying in essence is all these things are known, yet he cannot lend his voice. It's only to go and be poking his hands in like the big brother in Museveni will say, in the anus of the lion. That is what he's willing to do. But in this interview, even what El-Rufai said, here is another person sitting down there saying that El-Rufai and Amechi is planning to run away from the APC. And that's why they are talking in the manner they are talking. What? Not me.
I mean, you were talking about solution. And some of the things that Governor El-Rufai said, he said that if the federal government is not taking action, himself and his fellow governors in the Northwest will go for deploy foreign mercenaries to come and do the work. Yeah. Is that the right way to go?
Look, I mean, and that's El-Rufai doing what he does best. What does he do best? Talk and grandstand. This is political grandstanding, end of story. In an election year.
You don't think it's his own way of suggesting solution?
Let me finish. There's a political grandstanding in an election year. He knows he does not have that power to do that. He knows that 11th of March 2021, all security heads and the NSA met with the president, and the NSA came and briefed the nation about the result, that no foreign mercenaries, clearly. And Governor El-Rufai has had security issues in his state that he never does anything about.
You thinking? I mean, is that fair to say he never does anything?
Yes, I have taken him on by writing on newspapers. They have abducted school children, never said anything. We lost 5 of them. So he and Honorable Minister Amechi are doing nothing but grandstanding. They are too clever by half. They are looking for an off-ramp to jump off this ship that they are part of. They are part of this government.
Did you hear that? They are looking for an off-ramp. That means it appears the ship is doing like Nigerian economy. You understand what I mean? You understand that the ship is doing like Nigerian economy.
Our economic is doing like this. It's doing like this. It's blinking, shaking.
He's doing like this. That's what he's probably.
That has
I don't know.
To secure the nation and protect its people. Now they are looking to blame somebody else. Oh, is the military? Is that? Who in the world thinks in an election year any mercenaries thing will happen? In an election year, when they are looking, they're disconnected from our realities. They're scrambling for offices. Oh, this one say, oh, if you do not bring mercenaries, I'll do that. He does not have that power.
Even the president himself, with his own mouth,
the government has failed to do its principal duty of protecting life or property of all beings inside its territory in Nigeria.
Well, if the government cannot protect all the beings, is it the rights that they will protect? The question is yours. When you begin to analyze and look at these things and compartmentalize them, you begin to ask yourself, where on the hell is this man called Tunde Bakare that he cannot, like every other person lends their voice, at this moment in time, say something? But there is one person, I think that is an old video, I think Pastor Okaf, again, is all of them, in my view, not them. The one that once did a fake miracle, you know that worry woman that has short hand, and they will be doing the hand like this. Tell people to the woman, hey, they will be shouting, Urobo, Robo, Kawai, Kama, 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 Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and the woman will be doing her hand like this. That's what you get. But here is a
Tunde Bakare. He will lead millions of Nigeria, save Nigerian soul. I'm surprised when Nigeria's soul need to be saved now. Tunde Bakare have not stood up to say save Nigeria's soul. Why? Because of whatever they are benefiting from the government, they cannot be able to speak. Shame unto Pastor Tunde Bakare. Yes! Shame unto him. Yes! Shame unto him. Why? This is Christian fighting against Christian. What is the offense of Jonathan that this government have not done? Listen, Pastor Tunde Bakare with some other radicals, they will close Ojota. They say save Nigeria. Nigeria needs to be saved now than ever. Yes, sir. Amen. I'm not afraid of anybody. Not at all. I'm not. Listen. If we need to die for this gospel, I am ready to die. Hey! Are you hearing what I'm saying? So that is the highest thing you can use to threaten him.
now. You see why I'm saying there are better things to talk about. The other day I made it as a joke, but it's damn too serious. You fly on the air, the bandit may invade. No, why did I say bandit? The terrorist would invade the airport. We've seen it happen in Kaduna. You go on the train, kaboom, you're up in the air. You go on the road, but you come, there is no water. How then do you travel? Someone suggested maybe it's time to try Benin. Again, the only danger is that the Bender airline only flies at night. Where you will land, you don't know. It could be at the high tension, and you'll be calling people to bring you down. But that's on a lighter note. Before I conclude, to show Pastor Tunde Bakare where he should concentrate and speak as men who are concerned about things happening in Nigeria and stop speaking. Nobody asks you to come and break Tafawa Balewa cause. Not be you cause. Now we cause. Leave it for us. We didn't call you. Or are you forcing yourself to come and do family deliverance? Here is an imam saying it the way it is. After this video, who knows? I mean, this is what the government knows how to do. The government of APC, the one that have paid all of you. What did they do? They threatened the mosque, sacked him. But again, the truth is out there. What else can you do?
To take responsibility, I want to believe that we have all failed. I mean, I failed as an imam to teach you that life is sacred. You all failed as parents to teach your children that killing is bad. Our community leaders failed. Our politicians failed. Governors failed. Especially His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you have failed us.
You see, an imam is saying, the President, you have failed us. Where is another one that ought to be speaking truth to power? All he can tell us is something that only happened in his brain. That Tafawa Balewa they poured him alcohol before they shot him. Yet the person that saw his dead body, as I have proven here, clearly said there was nothing. His body was intact. Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We have your video telling Nigerians that The military is capable. Our military is capable. It has all the requirement to tackle this insurgency. And if you are voted into power, you are going to make sure that happens in a short time. You have given 4 years an addition. Yet, people are dying like fowls. Killing is becoming norm in Nigeria under your watch, Mr. President. If there is a Nigerian to tell you, I will take the responsibility of telling you, and I will take the responsibility of the consequences, because the life and properties of Nigerians is above all. Let me tell you, Mr. President, under your watch, bandits are taxing Nigerians. Is that the provision of the Constitution of Nigeria? Under the provision of Constitution of Nigeria, no one has the right to tax any Nigerian, except being authorized by the federal government.
Now, you obviously had the Imam categorically told the president that he has failed. And in the president's own words, in 2014, in 2015, while he was canvassing to vote him in, President Muhammad Buhari said the following. This is when they were asking us if we were happy that our kids no longer go to school. Never knew that the kids were going on half hours. We never knew that they would stop going at all. Before we were just never knew that when we were, oh, I want to buy a car in America, this dollar is 156. Damn it! We never knew that that was actually we were in paradise. That dollar at some point will now become close to $600, going more. Having your money in Naira now is nothing but just being useless. Because if you have any Naira in savings account, it's just useless. Why? But here is President Muhammadu Buhari telling us this, and Pastor Tunde Bakare cannot address this and cannot say, Mr. President, these were your words. Why are you not doing it?
Can you honestly, truly say to yourself that our country has changed for the better? Are our children safe when they go to school? Are our parents safe when we leave them at home?
Now, how can those who were in the train that were bombed, if this was playing to them, I don't know, just tell me, what would you think they'll be telling the president or Tunde Bakare? Are they safer now that Buhari is in?
Is the Naira in your bank account of greater value today than it was 4 years ago?
Rhetorical question. And also prophetic, without even knowing that you are making a video to even judge your own government. Dollar was 156. At some point, it got to 179. Before the election, it got about 192, and everybody was shouting as if the world is coming to an end. But today, people will be happy to even go beg if they can buy dollar at the official rate of 450. How did we get here? Yet, men like Tunde Bakare will be poking his hands in the orifice of a lion.
I, Muhammad Buhari, I am urging you to have your PVC, and on election day, you go peacefully and vote and make sure your vote count. Thank you very much.
Okay, on that note, I would say, if you're close to Tunde Bakare, show him I have done my best. All I know is that we can no longer be alive and allow people to change the narrative and, get this false information fill the air. It will not happen. It may have happened before, but I say unto you, no more. We are now alive to our responsibilities. On that note, I say thank you very much for joining me. Please, please, please like this video, subscribe, and share with others. The way this video went viral, this must also went viral. Sorry, this must also go viral, because at the end of the day, they say he who goes to the king and informs the king on his way up, on his way down, he must also inform the king. On that note, I say thank you everyone for being part of this conversation this evening. And I say to you, thank you once more. For those of you who have subscribed already, for those of you who are yet to subscribe, please, by all means, subscribe and just keep coming back here. We'll be giving you the best of our content. And for this, I'm going to be watching out for his Sunday sermon to listen if he's going to apologize and retract this nonsense that he just said about me and my people. And on that note, I say, and remember, says okay, unapologetically dotted, the dotted one. Good night, everyone from here. Bye.